Live from our 7 Tasmania studios, your nightly news with Kim Miller begins now.
The gold trip in Tasmania led to pubs and luncheons across the state. Not everyone knew how to read the form guide, but the fireworks at Flemington sparked plenty of cheers.
Excitement for Flemington's fabled race had been bubbling away.
We've got fashion, we've got fun, we've got punting and we've got dreams.
Dreams which could be made or broken by a nose.
I love all the action and all the fancy things that everybody wears.
Have a few beers and just watch the horses, it's good fun.
The Sports Garden Hotel had a $100 bar tab for the best dressed.
The competition was very limited, it was one guy in a hoodie, so yeah, it was a pretty easy win.
Women's winner Kelly Locatelli bought her outfit from the Salvos.
$18.
And $82 return on investment.
The atmosphere, it's electric.
Whether you consider yourself a serious punter or just a silly partier, the one leveller is all eyes are squarely on the screen when the runners cross the line. Others cross the line to Elwick as well.
What do you love about coming out here?
The wine.
I know there'll be lots of champagne flowing, so that'll be nice.
I think I might like Without a Fight, which is what I'll get in here. In and out without a fight.
One sure bet on Cup Day, the Friends of Clifford Craig luncheon. Cheers! Combining fundraisers and fascinators.
I come as a supporter more than anything, not because I know anything about the horses.
Clifford Craig do a marvellous job.
Celebrating its 30th edition, the lunch tips in a healthy chunk of the $30,000 the group raises each year.
It's one of those wonderful social events where the people come out and support it. Melbourne Cup Day is a great day, so they can actually support their own local hospital charity at the same time.
So while many donated to the bookmakers, others helped a good cause. Tom Johnson, 7 Tasmanian News.
Tasmanian taxi drivers are the latest to fall victim to increasing cost pressures weighing down on a number of local industries, forced to now pass on a small fare hike. The state's economic experts are warning the financial pain is far from over.
They're the curbside operators reliant on fuel to get the job done, but that is coming at an increasing cost.
The fuel prices have really gone up, and we can't actually afford running a business in Hobart or in Tassie. And Tassie's fuel price is way ahead actually from the mainland.
A 5% hike to customer fares coming into effect today will endeavour to ease the pain for drivers.
Like every other industry, everything has gone up, so I believe 5% increase is very reasonable in taxi.
With another interest rate rise, the hit to the hip pockets of Tasmanians just keeps coming.
Those costs in fuel and gas oil and electricity and raw material, they probably affect us more than other places.
All heightened by the island taking home some of the lowest wages in the country.
Unfortunately, we need to get ready and maybe cut a bit of expenditure on going out or things that are not necessary.
The opposition continues to be critical of the state government's handling of the crisis, with cost of living in Tasmania currently rising at its fastest rate since the 1980s.
Premier goes to Canberra and lobbies for. He says what we need right now is a new stadium. Labor completely disagrees. We know that the cost of living is the biggest issue here in Tasmania, and the best thing that Tasmania could do to help itself is to cap power prices.
But the Treasurer has hit back, out to reaffirm his government's loyalty to those struggling, while asking questions of the feds.
I do call on the Australian government, who haven't lifted a finger on petrol and diesel prices and have not honoured their pre-election commitment on electricity. As political parties continue to lock heads, the household pain leaves thousands in limbo. Grace Evans, 7 Tasmania News.
Pharmacists say extra funding for the PBS will help Tasmanians afford the medicines they need. As announced in last week's federal budget, Labor is further subsidising medicines on the program to lower the maximum co-payment to $30.
Unfortunately, every day we see examples of people having to make a choice between which medicines they feel they can afford and for which member of the family. So to have a reduction in costs like this, which is quite significant, is great news for us.
This is a cost of living measure, a real cost of living measure that will have a real impact on people's lives.
The new prices come into effect on January 1. TT Line has reversed a controversial shock ban on livestock, including horse transport. The state government says it's worked for days to find a solution, which couldn't come quickly enough for the racing industry.
Forget the race that stops the nation. This week, TT Line stopped Tasmania's racing industry in the middle of the spring carnival.
And unfortunately, with the decision that the horses can't travel on the boat, the horses can't get there. So it's been pretty disappointing for us.
Owners, trainers and horse transport companies have been impacted by the decision. Plans for runners at this week's Melbourne Cup carnival were stopped in their tracks.
It's an industry that supports hundreds of jobs right across Tasmania, but particularly in regional Tasmania.
But there's a forecast for fairer seas with transport of horses and other livestock to resume. The state government giving an extra staff member to TT Line.
And will provide an inspection service onboarding to make a recommendation to TT Line to then make a final judgment on the suitability of the transport vehicles and the health of the animals.
It's an interim arrangement in place for a month. Livestock will be back on the boat leaving Devonport tonight and from Geelong tomorrow.
It certainly couldn't have been handled better or more quickly over the weekend. TT Line were faced with very significant legal advice.
Thankful for the fix, the industry hopes to move forward from this mare.
I don't think it'll have any real long-term effect. It's just the short-term impact for missing out on a big race day at Flemington with 70,000 people there.
Josh Duggan, 7 Tasmania News.
The Cam River Bridge is now open in both directions. Additional concrete was poured to strengthen the structure, with tests deeming the repair work safe for traffic. A reduced speed limit is in place, while monitoring of the infrastructure stability will continue. The state government says the new $18 million bridge will be built higher to withstand the risk posed by floods. Hobart has copped a wintry blast with cool and windy conditions lashing the city this afternoon. Gusts of up to 50 kilometres an hour were recorded on Canunny Mount Wellington, while the city received more than 5 millimetres of rain and hail. Blunston Arena was transformed into a venue more suited to the Winter Olympics, bringing the Sheffield Shield clash between Tasmania and Victoria to a halt. The woolly weather causing havoc in Sandy Bay, with roads turning white as drivers battled the treacherous conditions. Well, after a month of evidence, a jury in a murder trial has started hearing closing statements. 23-year-old Bobby Medcraft was killed by a fatal sword chop to the back of his leg in March 2020 in Burnie. The 5 accused have all pleaded not guilty.
Wrapping up long and complicated legal proceedings, the trial into what happened the night Bobby Medcraft was murdered is coming to an end. Defence for accused Lucas Ford starting the closing addresses because he produced evidence, 3 photos showing Mr Medcraft's group brought a 57cm battle axe and a knife to the fight. Telling the jury her client's role in the murder was somewhat forced after his sister, co-accused Kelsey, called to say Mr Medcraft's group was at her house. She suggested that if the accused had gone to Ritchie Avenue looking for a fight, they would have used the weapons they had straight away, urging the jury to treat the evidence they'd heard with caution. The prosecution telling the jury there was no doubt the accused 5 set out to find the deceased and violently attack him, saying that everything that happened that night was not an act of self-defence but one of revenge. They weren't scared of him, they chased him down, adding when the evidence is considered as a whole, it's obvious they chased him and beat him. Then co-accused Cody Christopher Shane Sheehan came in, not in self-defence, and delivered the fatal chop, reminding the jury of the evidence that Mr Medcraft at that time was on the ground with his hands over his head saying, "I'm sorry, I'm sorry," claiming the video evidence of the accused saying, "let's go get him," was not consistent with the defence's argument of self-defence. Closing statements will continue tomorrow. Talia Jordan, 7 Tasmania News.
Tasmania Police's bomb response unit has carried out a controlled detonation in the northwest this afternoon. It comes after old explosives, a large amount of ammunition and a number of unregistered firearms were located at a Kui property yesterday. Kui Point Beach was restricted and traffic controls were put in place. A 74-year-old man is facing numerous charges. All votes in the state's local government elections have now been counted, with those elected finalised. Nearly 85% of Tasmanians returned to vote, which the Tasmanian Electoral Commission says is on par with other parts of the country, which has compulsory voting. All candidates are required to lodge an electoral advertising return within 45 days. Final results are available from the TEC's website. Connectivity to our island neighbours is set to grow as Air New Zealand reveals an increase in flights. From today, the Hobart to Auckland route has grown from 2 to 3 services a week, operating on Tuesday, Thursday and Sunday to provide greater capacity for the summer holidays. The boost is welcome news for the local tourism industry, which is continuing to bounce back from the pandemic. A special medal presentation has recognised 19 police officers for their continued commitment. 2 long-serving officers have been honoured in the North District ceremony, celebrating 35 years.
The Big Blue family coming together to celebrate decades of service, including Inspector Darren Hopkins, recognised for 35 years in the force.
Been shot, stabbed, punched, bit of everything really.
Most notably surviving a light plane crash in 2018 where the inspector guided a burning aircraft into a field near Hagley.
Extensive burns and injuries from that, so recovering pretty well.
And it wasn't his first brush with death after being shot in the back with 63 pellets in 1996.
Well, that was a drug search that was being undertaken in the back of Mount Roland. Unfortunately, there's a booby trap set up at a drug plantation.
Sergeant Fergus Cameron also awarded the 35-year clasp, looking back on a successful career which began here in the 1980s.
It's been interesting. It's been a long and challenging career. I've worked in scientific, I've worked in traffic, I've worked in country police stations, and probably one of the best things is you've got the ability to change areas.
Constable Dean Wotherspoon also receiving a national honour for contributions to search and rescue with his service during the 2016 floods in the spotlight.
That still lives with me. Up until Hillcrest, it was probably the worst day of my life.
An emotional job, but a worthwhile one.
The job is challenging, but it's also very rewarding.
It's that loyalty from your comrades and your friends within the organisation. So it is a Big Blue family, and it's that support that you get from those colleagues and friends.
A similar ceremony was held in Burnie yesterday. The Force's Southern contingent will be recognised in a fortnight. McKenna Bailey, 7 Tasmania News.
Some of the state's most scenic roads will host a flurry of bicycles this weekend for the Cygnet Cycling Festival. Despite rain and hail in the south today, sunny skies and 18 degrees are forecast for Saturday's inaugural festival with 130 entrants.
As an event organiser, I guess I just want to see bikes everywhere in Cygnet. We have a bunch of different events happening at Verdens Reserve.
These regional events are incredibly important. They promote the regional flavour of our beautiful state. They promote activity and economic activity within those regions.
Alongside the main racing event, there are 2 smaller participation rides. Entries close tonight. Students from a Tasman Peninsula primary school have today helped give rubbish destined for landfill a new lease of life. Their visit to the Mornington Waste Facility, part of a project aiming to educate the next generation about the circular economy.
Turning one person's trash into a school's treasure. This class from Denali Primary went shopping at the Mornington Park Waste Transfer's second new store, scouring the site for materials to use in their latest project.
We thought, how about make something in the garden while we're here? We decided to make a mosaic with the tiles that we have found down at the shop.
The spending spree also a learning opportunity. Let's Explore Waste is a program run by Landcare and the facility's owners, educating schools on the benefits of a second chance.
It's incredibly important that we do work with the next generation of kids coming through, for them to understand what the circular economy looks like.
Processing the equivalent of 10 Olympic-sized swimming pools of waste per year, around 40% is saved, a figure experts say needs to grow.
We can't send stuff to landfill anymore, that's just not an option. We've got to be able to recover all of the waste that we produce.
And they're hoping children can be the teachers at home.
They can go home and talk to their families about how we can be better at reusing, upcycling materials.
It's a message this group seems to have learned.
Just recently we did a plant a tree day and every kid planted about 5 or 6 trees. It's really good for the environment because if you don't, the world's just going to get polluted and there won't be any more world after a while.
John Hunt, 7 Tasmania News.
Desperate Victoria and the wild weather you saw earlier cost Tasmania the chance to win its Sheffield Shield clash. Dogged batting from Travis Dean and Mitchell Perry frustrated the Tigers, with this afternoon's polar blast eventually forcing the match to end in a draw.
After a late wicket last night, Tasmania were looking to get stuck into Victoria's middle order early this morning. The Vics, however, had other ideas.
Dean's clobbered that outside the off stump, and it's a great looking shot through the backward point region, and that'll run away for 4.
Travis Dean and night watchman Mitchell Perry out to frustrate the Tigers' attack in their bid to hold on for a draw. They had the classic defensive strokes and leaves on display through the morning, with the Tigers getting desperate for a wicket. Dean also taking advantage when the opportunity presented.
Shorter pitch delivery and clipped off the pads down to fine leg. He'll pick up some runs here. He might even pick up 4, and it's a boundary for Travis Dean. And
young and old watching on as Victoria moved within 80 runs of Tasmania's lead. Despite desperate pleas, the Tigers couldn't snag a wicket in the opening session. Perry and Dean continued to frustrate after lunch, and to make matters worse, the clouds rolled in, with wind and rain forcing them from the field. Hail blanketing the surface not once but twice, with even the seagulls looking for shelter. The second downpour turning Blunston into a ski field, leaving everyone running for cover. That was enough for the match to be called off. Weather and desperate defence turning Tasmania's hopes of victory to dust. Jordan Silk scintillating 154, helping him win the Scott Mason medal. John Hunt, 7 Tasmania News.
Good evening. Hobart reaching a high of 14 today, Launceston 17, Burnie 15 and Devonport 16. The high was 18 recorded at the Friendly Beaches, 16 at Bushy Park, Smithton, St Helens and Low Head all 15, 14 for Maria, King and Flinders Islands as well as Grove, and Lyweni 10 degrees after a 0 degree start. Cold unstable cloud extending right across Tasmania today. An extensive area of cold unstable cloud extends over the Bight as well as Tasmania and southern states of the mainland, as a thick band of middle and high cloud moves east across the Tasman Sea. Tomorrow a trough will cross Tasmania, directing a cold southwesterly airstream across the state, and another front will approach from the Southern Ocean. Southwesterly winds 20 to 30 knots in the east, and west to southwesterly winds 20 to 30 knots about the northwest and south, seas rising to 2 to 3 metres. A strong wind warning is issued for most of the coastal areas of Tasmania tomorrow. There are also minor flood warnings for the Macquarie, Meander, North and South Esk rivers, also a sheep graziers warning for the northwest coast, Upper Derwent Valley and southeast districts, and a bushwalkers alert for snow down to 600 metres around the western and central plateau districts. Hobart, a shower or two, 14, 13 at Geeveston, showers, and Bothwell 12 with a frost to start, then showers increasing. Becoming cloudy in Launceston 15, also in Devonport 14, Cressy an early frost, then partly cloudy 15. A shower or two in Burnie 12, showers in Strahan 13, and Curry 14, showers increasing. 15 for St Helens, partly cloudy, 15 also at Swansea and Orford, possible late showers. The UV is 8, moving into that very high zone now, sunrise at 5:56 a.m. Thursday, showers about the west, far south and Bass Strait Islands, possibly elsewhere in the afternoon, and snow falling to 600 metres during the early morning. Friday, showers about the west and far south, and Saturday, fine apart from possible light showers. 14 in Melbourne tomorrow with a shower or two, and a sunny day in Sydney, 21 degrees. Right now in Hobart, it's mostly cloudy 9, Launceston mostly sunny and 12, and Devonport mostly sunny 10. And that's your weather forecast, Kim.
Thank you very much, Carmen, and that is all we have time for this evening. For now, it's good night.